It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Glen Affric Brewery in Liverpool, and this is a can of their Peninsula Porter. This is a 4.8% ABV can of beer, a 440 milliliter can of beer. We have a peninsula where I live. They call it the Gower Peninsula. And it's beautiful down there. It really is a beautiful place. The Gower Peninsula is like kind of world-renowned, beautiful place. But which peninsula is this? Which one is it? Is there a peninsula in Liverpool? Is there a peninsula in Glen Affric where this brewery was founded? It has to be somewhere, because they put it on the can. Right, without further ado, let's get this beer out into a glass and see what we get. A little bit of smoke on the can opening, beer in the glass. We got a one finger tan coloured head. It's I don't know what the camera's picking up here. My eye, I would say, is picking up something extremely mild. Extremely mild. I wouldn't go as far as saying jet black. This is definitely more of a really dark brown colour on the beer. So lots of roasted malt used in brewing this beer then. Good levels of carbonation as you rock the beer back and forth. Let's get the aroma then on the beer. Yeah, it's I'm gonna go and I'm gonna carry on with my theme here of certainly in the aroma, it's almost porter, dark mild territory. It's leaning towards both, which I think is really good actually, because it makes the beer very complex. It's leaning into porter, it's leaning very much into dark mild. It wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination with the tobacco smoke flavours coming through here in the aroma. The rich, dark, roasted malts offering chocolate, coffee, caramel aromas, a little bit of vanilla coming through. If you watch an old Fred Dibner video on YouTube where he's kind of driving his steam train from Bolton to a steam rally somewhere, it's something like 8 miles, but it takes him 2 days to do it. It's ridiculous what that man used to do. Well, it was great, but in a very kind of great, ridiculous way. I'm a massive fan, massive Fred Dibner fan, by the way. But there's a scene where he's covered in oil from his steam train and he pulls up outside of a pub. And you can see he's getting off his steam train, his brain is rattling from all the vibration, he's covered in oil and he just wants a pint. You can see it in his eyes. That man is leaping off that steam engine. He's left his wife to sort out the kids and he's literally running into the pub, darting into a pub for a pint. And he orders a pint of Tetley's. And they pour this pint of Tetley's and it comes out and it's literally this colour. Tetley's was literally this colour with a big kind of frothy off coloured head on the top. And I thought, whoa. When I watched that video, I thought I'd have loved to have tasted that kind of pint of Tetley's back in the day. Because of course, a pint of Tetley's now is not the same as it was 30, 40 years ago. It's a completely different beer now, isn't it? But this, the colour of it, certainly the colour of it reminds me of that kind of dark, mild Tetleys. It smells good. It smells really good. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Oh, yeah. Dark mild. I'm going to go with it. Dark mild. Stroke porter. Oh, porter on the back end. It's very roasty right at the end. It's roasty and toasty and nutty and chocolate, coffee, caramel flavours coming through. Oh, it's definitely a split. It's a split between a porter and a dark mild. But that just makes things really interesting for me. That makes it really interesting because I have to dissect the beer and I have to kind of think about all of the flavours coming through. I love this style of beer. I love this style of beer, this kind of dark, rich, chocolate malt, roasted malt, vanilla, hoppy. I think it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I call this style of beer like an old school beer. You know, a beer which I'm really pleased hasn't been forgotten about. It would have been quite easy, wouldn't it? Especially, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. And by the time I got to the 90s, I was of drinking age. And back then, for my sins, I used to read the Sun newspaper. Because I was young, I used to read it back to front. And I used to read kind of the football first, the sport part of the newspaper first, and then I'd have a glance at page 3, and then I'd have a quick glance through at the paper, not really looking at whatever else was going on in the world. It was all football and page 3 back then. I was a young man. But my point is, I read an article once in the Sun newspaper, and it was advertising two dogs, alcoholic, alco pop thing. It was just a thing. It wasn't even like a style of anything. And because the Sun newspaper had millions of readers back then, everyone went out and bought two dogs, and then all of a sudden everybody was drinking alco pops. And you can imagine the wisdom of the older people in the pub. You know, they're watching these youngsters drinking these kind of alco pops and all these other kind of WKD blues and all the rest of the Bacardi Breezer rubbish that they promised would never give you a hangover. Never give you a hangover. And those drinks gave you the worst hangover of my life. Those drinks used to give you the... But anyway, you can imagine the older guys standing in the corner with their dark milds and their porters. And they're looking at the youngsters and they're probably shaking their heads a little bit and they're going, "You've got a lot to learn. You've got a lot to learn, youngster." But of course it was being threatened, wasn't it? The whole beer industry was being threatened by these alco pops and these kind of... It was a case of lager beer attacking beer, alco pops attacking beer. It was like beer had nowhere to go, did it? I think the last time I seen a John Smith's advert on the telly was probably 10 years ago. It just become a real struggle, didn't it? To unless you know, of course, unless you know of these styles of beer, unless you kind of want to educate yourself in drinking decent beer. And this is a decent beer. I'm going to be honest, I'm sure Glen Affric don't mind. I'm going to say this is a cross between a dark mild and a porter. I wouldn't put the tail on the donkey here and say it's just a porter. It's definitely kind of got some dark, mild qualities to it. But that only goes for me to enhance the beer. There's lots of biscuity, bready notes. There's roasted notes. There's vanilla notes coming through. It's fantastic. It really is. It's a great drink. A great drink. I like it enough to give it a Stone the Crows. Oh, I can't because they put porter. They just called it a porter. I want to Stone the Crows this beer because it's blooming great. But I just feel like it's too mild-like and not enough porter-like for me to be able to do that. So I'm going to say 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. My own personal taste buds would be like lapping this up. I'll drink it all day long. But I just feel like it's lacking a little bit in the porter department. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.